Hey, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hey Man, It's Okay. I am Sky Bridges, your normal guy, just here to give you the normal guy's perspective.
Hey, and I am Ryan Heapy. I am a licensed therapist out of Newport Beach, California. And I'm here to also bring you my somewhat normal guy perspectives with a hint of going on 10 years of practicing psychotherapy and 12 years now of 12, 13 years of deeply studying clinical psychology. I'm excited about today's conversation. I guess I'll just keep riffing on it. Today and yesterday are very special, meaningful days for me. This will be the 12th year that I am grateful, lucky, blessed, um, miraculously blessed to still be here. 12 years ago, I was in the worst place of my entire life. Just a brief background there. I had gone from sort of reaching almost a pinnacle in nightlife. I was a VIP host at Tao nightclub when it was the greatest club on earth. I had some big clients, people like Enrique Iglesias, like Zach Braff, to sort of, I guess I would say your everyday whales and things like that. And I was in charge in some ways, or my clientele was like the SoCal. I think I was deemed the SoCal ambassador at one point. And
You're a pretty easy guy to get along with. I understand that.
yeah. And the way that came from is I initially started running nightclubs here in Orange County and then moved to Vegas. The owner of the night of Tao was buying a lot of ad space from what was once a very relevant zine, I guess, out here, the OC Weekly. And he asked her if she knew of anybody who was sort of versed in both nightlife worlds and mentioned my name. And 2 weeks later, I had a meeting with him. And the next was, I'd actually moved to Las Vegas to get out of the nightlife industry, if you can believe that. Probably not the wisest or like efficient ways.
Eating ice cream. I'm going to move to this
Yeah,
town that just sells ice cream.
exactly.
I'm going to move to Tillamook.
Yeah, that was what I did. And then that was crazy, amazing. Every night there was probably a different story I could tell. And then I turned 30 years old. And one day while I was at work, my hip just started hurting. And that turned into 3 years of pure hell, going from the Las Vegas Strip to my mom's guest bedroom in Huntington Beach and dealing with a world of chronic pain and a loss of identity. I was also being pumped full of opiates from Kaiser, all prescription opiates. We could probably do a podcast on that. There was a point somewhere in 2012 where I went to the pharmacy and there must have been, I'm not kidding at all, 100 people in line at this pharmacy. And I finally get up to the front and I get my fentanyl and Norcos and
Yeah.
all from Kaiser. Okay. And I asked the guy, how many people in line here are coming for these things? And he just looks at me and goes, all
Wow.
of them. And that was when I realized this country has a problem. But anyways, I mean, those opiates turned me into a zombie. On top of it numbed the chronic pain, it numbed the emotional pain. It just numbed everything. And I was basically kind of an extra from The Walking Dead. And I was depressed. I was miserable. I was over it. I didn't see a way out. The few ways out that I did see, they just felt like real long climbs out of that situation. I had lost the identity of who I was. And I was sort of this guy who knew a million people and was not necessarily like the life of the party, but often the heart of the party and often putting people together. And now I was laid up in bed and I had 2 fake hips replaced. Both my left and my right were replaced. And then 7-8 months after that, I had a horrific spinal fusion. If anybody's familiar with Luigi Mangione and his issues, he posted an x-ray of his spinal fusion where he's got, these 2 or 3 screws that they attach a plate between your lower 2 vertebrae And then I believe mine, there's either cement or like cadaver in there. I forget which one they picked. And then it seals these two vertebrae. And it's a real ugly x-ray to think that those things are caging. It's called a cage around your spine. And I think the pain after that surgery was worse than the actual pain itself. I wish I had done better research before I said yes to that surgery. This is the same. I had a very similar arc as Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods had the exact same surgery as well. Also ended up, I believe he was dependent upon opiates. And that was, really his downfall as well. And yeah, so just to wrap that up at the tail end of it, 12 years ago last night, I went out with a friend and decided it was time to call it, and had him take me home. I had been thinking about taking my life for quite some time, months, maybe even a year or two at that point. And my father actually did the same about 10 years prior to that. And so it was a real option for me. And there was a gun safe. I went to the safe and I was very inebriated, intentionally knowing what I was going to do. And that inebriation, probably amongst many other things, saved my life, because I could not figure out how to put the right bullets into the right clips, into the right gun. And after 10, 20 tries or something like that, it was a lot. On my last one, I finally was about to give up, pulled the trigger one more time, and it fired. And somehow the bullet miraculously stopped a millimeter. Just it hit my skull, basically. It just nudged right up against my skull, between my nasal cavity, right where you would envision your third eye being.
Like here-ish.
Yep, exactly right there.
Yeah.
And one of the big things I wanted to talk about, is I have this x-ray that I sent you.
We should put this on our Instagram and Facebook for the listeners to look at.
That's what I want to talk about, actually, is I have not posted this. I have not, I don't know how many people I've ever really shared it with. And the few people that I probably have, I've probably overshared it, which is the shame that I have around this. And there's a couple people where this topic has come up where I didn't want it to come up. And I could have done a better job maybe wrapping it up. Sometimes it just kept unfolding. The most recent time I was in Vegas with the guy that actually was with me that night, and another best friend. And we're having a good time. We're in Las Vegas. We were there for a festival or a show, and we're all hucking it up. And the next thing, my suicide attempt comes up. And for me, it's, man, the amount of times I've had to talk about this in therapy or just discussed it in a casual form.
Yeah.
For some of these people, it's not very casual at all. I know they feel some shame and guilt around maybe not finding me help or saying something. And I think it just creates a lot of confusion, but more than anything, it's great at bringing a vibe down sometimes. And for me, it's something I'm not really all that, I could be much better aware of, because I put it in such a compartmentalized place. It being 12 years ago now, at the 7-year mark, I had one of my best friends say, I don't know if this is real or not, but that every 7 years, your entire body is completely new. Every cell has been renewed.
I've heard that too somewhere.
Yeah. And let's say it's true. And because in that moment, I just remember, man, I am in every single way was so different. I could barely even relate to who that guy was in that intense depression, despair, hurt, loss. And so I have one of the craziest x-rays I think anybody will ever see, where there's a bullet literally right lit up just like a third eye, right where my third eye would be. And the other thing in regards to that is I know people who have done the same, most who have passed, but also some who, have had to have 20 plus surgeries, have a glass eyeball, have serious effects from it. And here I am I had I don't know, 15, 18 stitches, and that's it. There was no reconstruction. There's no going in to pull it out. I'm assuming that it's no longer there. And
What about the inside of your mouth? Did it like hit your tongue? Did it do any inside of that? Like
so
any other internal damage there?
it was so hot that when it went through, it sealed everything up on the way through.
Oh my gosh.
It did. And I found this out just the other day. Well, I had a new pulmonologist, and this guy's great. He was going through all of my charts. And he said, "Oh, I saw you fractured your skull this one time." And I said, "I don't remember ever fracturing my skull." And that was, I guess there were some fractures of that kind of going through the roof of my mouth and some of my nasal cavity. But out of all of the injuries I've sustained, whether that's broken arms, these hips, bronchitis, pneumonia, this was the least physically traumatic thing I've probably been through, which is just remarkable in and of itself. Oh,
That's so wild. It's just so wild because there's so many things that could have gone wrong. And here you are. I would never know.
yeah. And so my struggle kind of over these last few days, I've obviously been doing a lot of reflecting around it. Getting prepared for this pod has been, I've wanted to reflect, but also this was a day that I used to get to celebrate with my mom, and she made a deal about it, which was wonderful. It was often like a bigger day for us than my birthday. And I appreciated that. She did too. And so now she has dementia, and I haven't heard from her in 2 or 3 days. I've reached out. I know she's doing okay, but I also know she struggles using the phone. And so that's been, a sad reality in and of itself. Um, and and so so we had Sky and I in our last podcast, we had the schizophrenic hippie on. This guy was amazing. And his resilience to negativity around the shame he had for his mental health was just beautiful.
Yeah.
So
He's amazing.
he got his name, the schizophrenic hippie, because somebody was talking shit on him. He said, like, this guy looks like a schizophrenic hippie. And he embraced the username.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So he really inspired. And I have a meeting with him tomorrow morning. I'm really excited to talk to him. Yeah.
Sweet.
And so he really, I think we talked a little after the pod about, man, you got to share your story. You got to put it out there. And so I talked to my best friend first, and she was like, yeah, you have to. Like, yes, there's a lot of people know some parts of it, but definitely not this part, and definitely haven't seen how close things got. But then I asked a few more people. I asked somebody like professionally how things might come across. We even got into a conversation around romantically, just putting something out there. A future person I might date who maybe we haven't met yet, or we've gone on one date, and then she goes scrolling through my Instagram and sees this as a red flag, even though it's 12 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And here I am now. And that's like the real heart of the post is here I am now. Fuck shame. I'm so grateful. And anybody else who is struggling, do not get to that point. Okay. Please. Because the real hell really began like after that, having to go to a psych hospital, having to look your family in the eyes that you forgot about. My little cousins. I mean, that was the hardest moment I had, I think, was my little cousins. My brother had a little judgment. And so I think that's what, I had an uncle who instilled a lot of shame. This uncle also used to tell me, even when I was crushing it in Vegas, he would say, so when are you going to get a real job? And he walked into the hospital room and said, how dare you? Like, we raised you better. We didn't raise you in the hood. It was just like the most detached from empathy, care. Like, he made it about himself. He was a captain for FedEx, and he wanted me to pay for his flight. I shouldn't make this too personal. When talking about the shame, like, it was like, that was really painful to be met with, you're already in the worst despair of your entire life. And now you're being blasted
Yeah, why
for
beat a
this.
guy when he's down, man? Makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Yeah. I was down. I was actually in the hospital bed at that time. And I also have to have a one-on-one, like you have to have a person watching you at all times. Yeah. And unfortunately, like this, I've probably made way too much about it. But I think there's also a lot to be said. We were just talking before this about, I was watching a great new podcast that just came out around therapy culture and how immersed so much of us are. In many ways, it's sort of a new religion. And I think social media goes hand in hand with that as well. And so there's even this fight or dance that we all do, that a lot of us do. And I think especially if you have some sort of business or something you want to sort of promote here and there, that you should be active on social media. You should be posting. There's sort of almost some shame if you don't. But then there's also some weird shame if you do. And or judgment, right? Are we doing this for attention? Maybe. Are the posts to be funny? Are they to engage people? Is it just our external journals? And so I've had a bit of a struggle about whether I should put this out there, how much I should put out there of it. Most people have said, go for it. And then the other thing is I kind of want to wrap it up in a way, like in a sense of I almost no longer want this to be my identity, that almost put it out there, put the X-ray out there. And if I talk about it on a podcast or a book or whatever, that's one thing. Okay. But keep maybe bringing it up or it being brought up in ways with friends and even as a mark of resilience at this point. I think I've done a damn good job and worked really freaking hard to get to where I'm at, both health-wise, emotionally wise, career-wise. I'm about to hire my first associate like tomorrow or the next day.
I love it.
So stoked, whether it's like where we're at with this pod right now. So many things are firing on all cylinders. And I just want to keep pushing and growing. And I almost don't want to look at that as the line from where I started again. Like now it's okay, man, I'm here and I just want to keep going. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that? And yeah.
Yeah. Whew.
You know,
There's a lot that we have to digest. I think first of all, man, I just have to say, I'm so honored and proud to call you my friend and to be able to run this podcast with you and to get to know you on a personal level, and that you're still here and that you're so resilient. Our stories around suicide are different. They connect us. And I'm so grateful that you're here to be that positive example that some people don't have. So that's why you joining me here has been really one of the best experiences of my life. So first of all, thank you, because I love you, man.
Thank you.
It really
Thank you,
means a
Scott.
lot
That means
that
the
you're
world.
here.
Yeah. That means the world to me.
Second,
And I've learned so much here. There's this thing is, I don't think I took a little reflection with setting up that meeting with Cody, all the different kind of twists and turns that we've had and the different guests that we've had and the things that you and I have had to work out, and also just like showing up even when we took a break. But lately it's been week to week again, and just the weekly sort of 1 hour get together was pretty cool. So
yeah, I love it. Your story it's so crazy to see how you went from like the top of the world and then dropped down to the lowest of the low, and how you've overcome that. When you woke up after, because I imagine that someone found you, and I imagine that no. So how did you go from the failed attempt to the hospital?
Shit. So I pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And the first thing was the bang. To be honest, I think it sobered me up. Like I think I just came to and realized, oh shit. And then my hand was warm and I had blood coming down on my hand, and another oh shit. And then ran to the phone. I think we had a landline still there, and thank God the fire department is maybe a block away from my mom's house there. And so they were there. It was like 30 seconds. It was unbelievable how fast they were there.
Wow.
And then I was yelling at them to take me to Kaiser because that was my insurance. And they said, man, we have to take you to a level 1 or whatever the highest place was to go. And they were like, you're going to be all right. And then I probably blacked. I think they sedated me. And then I remember I think it was the next day that people came and saw me. Maybe it was the day after that. And that was when, the hardest part was I have this little cousin, Robert, who I love. I don't know, I love him more than anything in the world. And when he walked into the room, I just felt like devastated. Seeing his tears, knowing that he almost lost me and that I was going to let him down at the highest level. Yeah. And then I guess just the last kind of hospital piece to that story was I was finally alone kind of after that without my one-on-one. And I had a doctor in the room and I asked him, hey doc, does this sort of happen often? And I don't know, trying to cage my question. And he looked at me and he said, are you asking if you're lucky? And yeah, I think I am. And he said, didn't you want to die? I sure did. And he just looks at me again and he goes, you're probably the most unlucky motherfucker I've ever met in my life. And turned around and walked out the room. Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yep.
Man, that's wild.
No.
So what, man, after being there and after going, I mean, I know you said it's so sobering, you're hearing that bang. How long after that did you know that, man, I really want to become a therapist? Because from where you were to where you are now is just so vastly different.
Fairly quickly. So my uncle is a psychologist and he was my first mentor, period. When I was like 12, 13, he normalized therapy for me at 12 or 13 when I was very depressed at a young age as well, mainly because of my father. And I only had a handful of sessions, and just having somebody hear me and listen to my emotional state was life-changing and just allowed me to have a voice for the first time in my life. And anyways, that moment, my teen was like, wow, like this is cool. You get to really help people at a real deep level that have never been heard. And obviously therapy was nothing like it is today. There was no such thing as therapy culture. And because when you make an attempt, and with the severity of my attempt, you will almost always get a 5150, which is a 72-hour involuntary hold. Because of the severity of what I did, I got a 5250, which is a 2-week involuntary hold. Ooh. And because of our impacted mental health system, the only place they could find me was all the way in Alhambra. It was like an hour and a half away from where I live. And man, when I got in there, I was furious at the system. And I was sane, right? My faculties are all working. I just didn't want to live. And here I was living with people with severe mental illness, schizophrenics, people with psychotic disorders, bipolar. They're hearing voices. And there were some people with less severe issues as well. I had a roommate when I first moved in. He had been there for a month and a half, I think. He was on the spectrum. He had a lot of trouble advocating for himself. He was originally from Jordan. I'm not sure if I just said this already, but he was attending UCLA at the time. And I started talking to him and I couldn't believe what I had heard, that his friends had dropped him off there. He wasn't really even sure why. He wasn't really even sure why he was there. He just wanted to talk to his family, and they wouldn't let him make a long distance call. Granted, yes, it's to Jordan. This is 2013. It probably would have cost them 10, 15 bucks. I don't know. The state's going to pay for it anyways. And that's all that needed to be done. And I raised hell, had got this guy a long distance phone call. He got on a plane, I think the next day. They got him out of there. They got him back to his family. And it was like in that moment, I was like, this shit needs fixing and this needs help. Yeah. And my initial inspiration to get into the field was to make bigger policy change. And maybe that's still my future. But man, that moment was the moment that I was like, this is what I want to do. I'm stuck here. Suicide doesn't work. I don't want to try again. That's for damn sure. It could go even worse. And then after that, I had to go to this terrible treatment center. At the time, rehabs, often run by real estate agents or mortgage guy. I don't want to give anybody a bad rap. Anybody that had some property with people
Okay.
not lit, with open spaces, could on a dime turn it into a rehab. There was hardly any regulation. It was happening all over, up and down the coast,
It's okay.
especially in Malibu, and especially here they call it like the Newport Riviera, the rehab Riviera. Okay. And my mother was sort of conned in, she just wanted to do the right thing. She didn't know where to turn, what to do. And somebody recommended a center for her. These guys came in hot telling her they could fix me and I don't know, whatever they were going to do. And when while I was dependent upon opiates, then it wasn't like I had a substance abuse problem. Like what I really needed was a mental health. So there is a difference between like substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment when it comes
Okay.
to treatment centers. There is a lot more substance abuse treatment centers out there than mental health, that like ones that deal with borderline personality disorder, depression, or bipolar versus alcoholism or any sort of kind of addiction. And this place barely knew what they were doing anyway. But they did have a group therapist that went by the name the Angry Therapist. Okay. And at the time, I think he had already a big group practice that he was building with 5 or 6 associates under him. But he would come to the center, and this guy was driving a Harley, long hair, tattooed Asian guy. He was dubbed the Angry Therapist. I think he was like just starting to write his first book. Man, he inspired me again. So this was just like a few weeks out of the treatment center, a few weeks away from the incident, and told me, I told him I'm thinking of going to grad school now. This is a real thing. He told me he'd hire me if I actually did it. And anyways, I ended up enrolling in grad school 3 or 4 months after that, mainly to get out of that treatment center, just to go somewhere and have something to do. And the night before I'm taking my license exam, okay, so now fast forward 7 years from that moment, the next day I'm going to become a licensed official therapist. Like the whole journey is now sort of completed. And somebody sent me a reel, and it was from the Angry Therapist. And I cried. It was just this holy shit. This guy who's now, I think he's got like 350, 400,000 followers, and he's got so many different big things going on. Yeah. To then have that moment of just, holy shit, like this was the guy that pushed me and here I am. So
That's so cool.
yeah, all that.
And I imagine you never took him up on his offer. Did you ever let him know you became a therapist?
I did. I don't know if I got I was a little sad. I was a little disappointed by the response I got. Honest. Yeah, because I wrote him a pretty heartfelt message, I think a week or two after that. And it might have been his assistant that wrote me back, but it was brief. It was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a busy guy now. It's funny.
Yeah.
I've been following him for a little bit now. He got in trouble a little while ago because he was on doing some yoga poses and he showed his balls. It was the most hilarious thing. And he's like, I'm not apologizing for it. Like, it just happened.
And so, you know what? That brings us to this and my post, okay, and sharing this. So he was somebody, I'm talking to another colleague, and she's running through, the professional possible implications, right? What if a client sees this? And I don't know. And the first thing I thought was, the damn Angry Therapist. He posts the minutia of his relationships.
Yeah.
Minute by minute often. And I was thinking, like, he unfortunately tragically lost his home in the Eaton fire.
LA fires, yeah.
And, was obviously sharing all of that I'm not sure if he's still doing licensed therapy, but there could be some sort of counter-transference there where maybe a client feels terribly bad and offers you money, offers you a place to stay, any number of things. And yeah, those things are to be taken into consideration. But also, like, when thinking about that, it's like, here's something 12 years ago that is the very reason I do what I do, and the very thing I want to keep everyone from doing. What's the reason you and I do this podcast is you lost somebody to it. I lost somebody to it. It's devastating. I still wish I had my dad to call on in advice for any number of things. Like, his and I relationship got real close. It was terrible for a long time, and then it got good, and then I lost him, and he was the most handy. He built homes from scratch, and boy, like, the amount of knowledge and wisdom that I wish I could draw from now. And then I think the wake of devastation that I would have left for my mom. My mom would have lost her husband and her son, my brother, my cousin, all my friends, all of the people that, all of the just, I bumped into someone whose life I saved yesterday. I helped save, okay, through this work.
Okay.
Full circle moment on the day that I was saved, that I was able to almost assemble a team around somebody. And then in that moment that I saw him, see him thriving like he's never done before. And all of that would have been lost. This thing we're doing here would not be a thing. You know, I feel I'm so blessed every freaking day to get to help people. And I swear, like, I try to make every session the best session a client has ever had. It's just like, it keeps me motivated, and it keeps me really engaged in each session. It makes the time fly by. But I'm a private practice clinician. Any one of these people can probably use their insurance and pay a hell of a lot less. And so I know they can fire me any day of the week if I say something wrong, if I say something they don't like, if I'm not doing the best, if I come in sleepy. And so I give my best every day. And a lot of that is, it's because I don't want anybody to go through this. I really want to. I'm so fortunate to be here. So fucking fortunate to be here. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
So what is it about now that makes you want to be so open and have a conversation about it at this point in time?
Part of it is that putting it behind me. Part of it is pushing through this shame. Part of it is thinking, maybe this does help somebody. Maybe it does wake somebody up. Maybe it does show somebody that is not the answer.
You know, I think I could see the same strength in you that I see in, there's a guy named Kevin Hine, and he survived to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. And he talks about how as soon as he hit the water, he immediately regretted his attempt, but how many people he's been able to touch and inspire. And while yours wasn't at a place like that, I think that your journey and the tools you've used and the people you've helped, I think could be so inspiring. And I think I'm really proud of you for making the decision to share.
I think I haven't shared it.
Well, you've shared your story.
Yeah.
You've shared your story, which I think is even the most important part.
But if you do, I guess this day and age, like, sharing your story kind of is on a social media platforms first, I guess, maybe. I guess that's where most people can go to see it in some ways, you know,
on the social media. And, you know, I wish we were at a point in society where for things to grow and for things to spread, it didn't have to be on social media, but right now it is. And that's, you know, if you're going to do something, that's where it's going to go big.
Yeah. And I won't lie. I think if it got a little traction, then I don't know, I could continue to speak on it, speak to people on a one-on-one level. I think my cousin put it best. Are you ready for positive and negative attention? And obviously, Cody, the schizophrenic hippie, said, yeah, just as much. Like, I was dumbfounded that he had negative attention, and he did, you know, and I'm sure I'll get some too. I don't know.
What are you most concerned about sharing?
I think I'm concerned I'm making too much of it.
Okay. Like it's too big in your head?
Maybe. Or that I, at this point, like it should just have a nice bow on it and be pushed in the corner and not something I bring up and not something I talk about. And
You know, I want to
yeah,
something you said to me
yeah,
actually. You
mhm,
said this to me on an unfortunate episode that actually got ruined, so we haven't re-recorded that yet. Was in order for people to connect with you, you have to be your true authentic
mm,
self. And I think this part of your journey is part of your true authentic self because it's what made you and created you. And while it's just a part of your story that you want to push away, it's just a part of your story. There's so much more to you than just, a suicide attempt from what you've built on top of that. And I think it's good to focus on that, to focus on the other positive things in your life that have happened because of this negativity. And you can give that hope to other people who may be in these, down depressive
mhm.
times when they feel like that's the only option out. It's you talking about it that can really show people that there is an option out.
There are other ways. And even if that's somebody reaching out to me, reaching out to us, yeah, reminding somebody who has a depressed friend that they haven't heard from in a few days to reach out to them. Yeah, it is. My cousin called me, same cousin that I've been talking about this whole time, Saturday. And man, he was just, he's often very angry. And he was just ranting for maybe an hour and a half to me and was trying to get him to reframe his story. I like put my therapist hat on and shut up, man. It just feels good to finally get all this shit off my damn chest. Oh, I feel so much better already,
That's great. That's amazing.
right? Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't about man, and this is like one of the number one problems when it comes to relationships, right? Most people don't want somebody to give us advice, fix it. Most of the time we know the answer, right? Like we've been chewing on this thing for a while. We usually know what we should be doing, right? But
Yeah.
we just want somebody to hear us. And we just want to vent and and a lot of times we just want to make sense of what this jumbled nonsense is that's flying around up inside our brains.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to find out that it's not just your brain that's thinking these things. There are actual reasons behind why your brain is doing these things. And I think that's
Mhm.
what you're doing is so important. And I am so thankful that people like you are really trying to make a difference and, it took you a lot of time. It took a lot of dedication to get where you're at now, Ryan. And that's not to be, pushed to
Yeah.
the wayside and just shirked off. You have put in some real work. And I think that's really commendable.
Thank you. Thank you, Sky. I'm so entrenched in it, especially when my week starts tomorrow and it's Tuesday through Friday and I have 7, 8 clients back to back to back that it just like those Tuesday through Fridays fly by and I love it. I feel I'm in the Super Bowl in some ways or just some kind of high stakes negotiation that I often miss. I get my own self-criticism is brutal. I was telling my friend how I felt. Why do I keep thinking I'm lazy when I've got 80 things going on and still trying to always trying to manage my dating life or whatever. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that. It takes 7 years pretty much. The grad schools try to sell you that it's like this quick process to become a therapist. And almost every budding therapist I talk to, I have to break their delusion. And really, it's pretty sad because I'm like, there's no way you're going to do this under 6 years, at least. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it under 6 years. It's pretty much impossible. And a lot of people don't end up becoming therapists. It's a long process. There's a lot of hurdles. You have to get certain types of hours. You have to get all these damn different signatures. You almost always have to work at multiple different sites to get those different hours. And me becoming a supervisor this week is also very cool and a real big mark in my career, I think, to hopefully pass on at least clinician wisdom at this point. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Because it's a long journey. Yeah.
But it sounds like it's worth it.
It is. It is.
I think
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think it's really cool
Mhm.
that you're doing it because I know men are a very small percentage of practicing therapists. So you're part of a very small
Oh,
group. What would you say to our listeners now who may be thinking about it, or what is some parting advice you would give them to just keep in their mind?
We need more male therapists. We need more strong male therapists, I think. But I think, in a sense, and I don't want this to come out like, we need more therapists that are leaders. And whether that's in the community, in the field, in the practice, um, there is a demand for them. Yes, it's a journey. You are going to probably be working either way till you're 80, I think, at this point. And so why not do something that doesn't destroy your body, that you can do for as long as you're cognitively able. I plan on seeing clients probably until the day I can't. I get so much joy and purpose out of it. I have the most fascinating conversations every day with some of the most fascinating people. Half the time I'm just really having these high level, like, intellectual conversations with really smart people. And it's just so much fun. And I'm helping them at the same time. And for me, there's not a more fulfilling purpose thing that one can do. And yes, it's a long time. It's probably, you could also probably become a doctor. You can definitely become an attorney in the same amount of time. If not half the time almost. And yet, if people is something you love, helping people is something you love, you got to do it. Yeah. Anyways, on that note, yeah, I can't tell you how freaking grateful I am to be here, to be alive, just to be breathing, and even more grateful to have been able to turn that terrible tragedy into a real cool life at this point.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for talking about your story and your reflections on your alive day. Because I can't imagine being on the side of this that you are and look back and see the growth that you've achieved and the obstacles you've overcame. It's commendable, and I love you, and I'm glad you're here with us now.
Thank you, man. You know what? I would just say everybody should have an alive day. Everybody should have a day that's not New Year's Eve, okay, that they get to reflect, just sit and reflect, maybe they take whatever their worst trauma was in their life. Okay. And from that point, every year, that's when we're not living in it. We're not going to live in that trauma. That's not the point, right? It's to look at what have we done and what's our next thing to keep growing. That really is, it's a real day of gratitude to just be breathing, to recognize and acknowledge our resilience. And I think every single person can do this. And I don't know, maybe that's something we're gonna pitch as an alive grateful day for everyone.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's it from us here at Hey Man, It's Okay, a men's mental health podcast. I want to thank everybody who tuned in and thank Ryan for sharing today. If you guys need help or if you are feeling like you're struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to someone you love. Call or text 988. They're quick to respond and they can get you the resources you need. So please do not, do anything that is going to be a permanent end for a temporary problem.
There is always hope. There is always hope. Our situations are never permanent. The only thing permanent is impermanence.
Yep. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Please be sure to follow, comment, subscribe, send us an email. Right now we have sky@heymanitsokay.com or visit our website, heymanitsokay.com. And until next time, it's okay to not be okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Love
everybody.
Ya.